So last night, my A1 since day one, my brother from another mother, he hit me up and he goes, hey, man, watch this video. Who do you think the GOAT is at point guard? And he's a lifelong Sixers fan, right? So he thinks that it's AI, which I really don't have a problem with. But the video, was like Magic Johnson. He was talking about, Pistol Pete Marinovich, and everybody was giving him props. And Magic was saying, look, this is who I modeled my game after, and I got this move from him and that move from him. And look, here's my thing. Pistol was a great player. And, that video of Bill Walton has been circulating for at least 20 years. Because I remember my pop showing it to me about, the LSU coach that went back and he said, look, if he's shooting from this range in today's game, he'd actually average 57 a game, right? I'm not mad at Pistol Pete. Here's the thing, and this is what people need to understand, and this is what, to me, always separates the truly great players from anybody else. And that is they actually understand the team game of basketball. People say that Tim Duncan was boring, right? They call him Mr. Fundamental, but how many rings does he have? You got Colin Cowherd knocking on Magic Johnson, saying, well, everybody brings the ball up the court now. Okay, fine. They bring the ball up court, but bringing the ball up court and being able to play the game the way that he did are two different things. So bringing the ball up the court, honestly, has never been anything that's unique or exclusive to anybody. We got used to seeing point guards do it, but it was never really unique or exclusive to anybody. So there's that. To me, I would put Zeke over Pistol. The thing about it is there were a lot of guys with major skills. You got Pistol Pete, you got White Chocolate, you got some other guys, AI. You've got guys that understood the game of basketball and they had skills, but they really never grasped the team game. And for my money, Magic Johnson is still the greatest point guard that's ever lived. There's been nobody to me that's been able to duplicate what he does physically, mentally, and the way that he understands and see the game. You can chant Larry Bird all you want to, and it's cool. He's had this resurgence of popularity with all the trash talk and all that stuff. That's fine. I'm not hating on Larry. I'm just saying I think Magic was better. Especially since, two different positions really. But at the end of the day, I just think Magic was the better point guard. What did Larry play? Small forward? Anyway. But my point about Allen Iverson is, especially as I've gotten older, right? When I was younger, I didn't like AI, but I was told by the media to not like AI. When you get older and you start finding things out, I'll never understand why AI didn't just say, look, this is what happened. And looking back on the whole practice thing, he wanted a break. I don't think he wanted to be angry. I think he wanted to cry. And Larry Brown received a lot of praise that was really undue to him. Let's not forget when he went to two different colleges, two different times, that scandals followed him everywhere that he went. And when he finally got to the NBA, he had Allen Iverson, but the Sixers treated him like they were a spoiled kid with a toy that they didn't want anybody else to have. They knew that they weren't going to do it right, but they just didn't want anybody else in the NBA to have him. And they knew that somebody would pick him up. And he never really had another true superstar in his prime. And somebody's going to say Lamar Odom. Lamar Odom was not a superstar. Neither was Eric Snow. And no disrespect to anybody in the NBA, but let's keep it a buck. Allen Iverson dragged a very mediocre basketball team kicking and screaming into an NBA Finals that they didn't even belong in. And I think that if he would have been under a Pat Riley or a Phil Jackson or somebody like that could help him grasp the team game, and instead of trying to make him play ball in this really neat and tight and nip-tuck way and really hone in on his skills and who he actually was as a ball player, I think he would have had as many rings as Jordan. I think he would have had more than Kobe. And we might be talking about Allen Iverson as the greatest basketball player of all time. But, Larry Brown and David Stern, they kept trying to put him in this bubble. And look, there's nothing wrong with the image of, the Huxtables or whatever, but that's not where AI was coming from. He came from the street. And that's who he was. And to him, his culture was cornrows, chains, baggy clothes. You're not going to try to change me. You know, when he was at Georgetown, I think John Thompson did a very good job in saving AI's life and his career. But as far as a basketball player, I don't know that he ever molded him into what he needed to be. But as a man, I think he did everything he could to make AI better. But I just think that in the NBA, he was so scorned and he didn't have true backing. And I don't think Larry Brown really ever actually had his back. I just don't. And I think if he would have had Pat Riley, you know, over with the Knicks or Phil Jackson with the Bulls or the Lakers, whatever, I just think his career would have turned out so much different, or, you know, much differently. And somebody's going to say, well, he played with Melo. Okay, but he'd retired already? And I think he retired because he got tired of the Sixers and their nonsense. And he wasn't really the same ball player anymore. And I think he had so many other things that was on his mind. And by the time he got to Denver and unretired to be with Melo, he wasn't AI. And anybody who's ever actually watched basketball knows that. I'm just saying. So what's my point here? My point is, had AI had a better coach, he might have been the greatest point guard of all time. But to me, as it stands, it's still Magic Johnson. Nobody has been Magic. And someone's going to say, what about Yoke? What about Yoke? Yoke is incredibly talented. But Yoke hasn't neared the rings. Okay, we got to have some defining factors here, right? Yoke hasn't neared the rings. And to be honest with you, as much as he understands the team game of basketball, I don't know that he's good enough to carry a squad yet. He's already done it. I don't know, man. Jamal Murray played pretty good the year they won a title. And since then, it's been kind of like when he decides he wants to play, great, but that's part of being a leader, right? Getting your other guys to play. Same thing with coaching. That might have been why they got rid of their coach. Who knows? I mean, I guess we'll see what happens going into this season, because last year was really crazy with that whole carousel, but it is what it is. And even then, didn't have the agility, the speed. I think 1-on-1, Magic wins a game. 2-on-2, he shows out better. 3-on-3, they definitely get a dub. 4-on-4, it's probably close with more factors involved. Starting 5, best of 7, Lakers clear 4-1, 4-2. And Magic's the MVP. I'm just letting you know. They're both in the Western Conference. You're missing what I'm saying. And even then, he'd be the Western Conference Finals or Western Conference Finals MVP. I'm going to tell you that right now. I'm just saying. All right, so Angel Reese gets a triple-double today. And what happens is, or yesterday, what happens is all of a sudden everybody starts going, oh, there she goes, me-bound champion. I didn't know you could have a triple-double going 2 for 7. I mean, just saying stuff, right? And it becomes clear that they didn't watch the game. It becomes obvious. Like, you're just rattling off stuff. And it's like, didn't you, because if you watched the game, you would have seen the play that she made. One of them in particularly, what was it, the first quarter still? Defensively makes an incredible play, pushes the rock up the floor, does a kick out, boom, they get a 3 in transition. And even then, I suppose it's no more bizarre than Rodman getting 28 boards and no points, than Draymond Green getting a triple-double and only scoring 4 points. Well, don't compare her to those two guys. Those are greats. First of all, 90% of you saying that are the same ones hating on Draymond Green, saying he's not really that good, he's a dirty basketball player. You're only going to be saying that in order to fit your narrative. Somebody needs you to chill on that, because I'm not going to have it. Secondly, we got to have a contrasted comparison somewhere. We got to compare her to players that play the position similar to the way that she does. And if you actually watch basketball, especially the WNBA, you would know that Angel is under constant duress down there in the post and is often double and triple teamed down there. Some of what she did was from the free throw line. which should tell you how often, you know what I mean? And the thing is she's been so improved this season. You know, she got off to a really rough start. But the other thing is, and it's crazy because the media shows you this, and you're still like, I can't stand her attitude. She takes responsibility for a lot of stuff that happens with her team. She'll literally say, yeah, we got to play better, but I have to do better. I have to do more. She puts a lot of pressure on herself to be even better. And let's not pretend that Caitlin Clark doesn't get into it with other ball players and doesn't instigate. And my thing is I don't really care about a beef between the two of them because it's really kind of non-existent. But and everybody in the media is trying to make it out to be, whether it's Clark or RG3 or anybody else. Yeah, whatever, man. They've said 1,000,001 times. You know what I mean? My thing is there's room for both of them in the W. And the reason why there's room for both of them in the W especially is because you're literally talking about two different styles of basketball. I don't know if it's because of Steph Curry or what it is, but for some reason now, and I think maybe it's just because of the style of play that we've gotten used to overall, we expect people to just jack it up from the three-point line, okay? And I'm not saying that what Cece does isn't impressive. She's a hell of a shooter. But for me, I like to have a little bit of balance at least, and I like post-game basketball. I like defensive basketball. I like fundamental basketball. I like all that stuff. There's room for all of it. And I think once we accept who they are as basketball players, I think if we view them in their sport as what they are, and that is Angel Reese is a post player, she's a defensive player, she's a rebounder, and we look at Cece for who she is, and that's being a springboard, fast-paced game, chucking it up, taking a lot of, risk-reward shots, doing a lot of risk-reward plays. We start to see that balance in the WNBA. It'll become a lot more entertaining. I'm just saying, I think we need to move past all this already. It's old, okay? I mean this. I never really liked him to begin with when he was at ESPN, all right? But the way that he started everything with this telling Angel Reese to shut the hell up, and then he admitted that he didn't know better, it's like, bro, first of all, your mustache isn't that impressive. Secondly, neither is your mullet. Thirdly, you worked at ESPN. Aren't you supposed to be like, I don't know, a real journalist? And aren't you supposed to do just a little bit of research, and that would have told you the whole you can't see me and where it came from and what was going on in that whole situation? But no, Oberman just couldn't help himself. And Shaq had to step in, and it's just been a mess ever since. And it's amazing how somebody as irrelevant as he's been can just legitimately start an all-out war. And it's never rested ever since. And he's never bothered to really actually apologize either. Because at the time when it happened, I mean, maybe he's done it now after all these, couple of years have gone by. But at the time, he certainly didn't bother to delete the tweet. I guess it was just giving him too much attention. I don't know. That's the journalistic world we live in now, isn't it? Who cares about what actually happened? That doesn't really matter. There's no integrity in the business anymore. Is what it is. Final thing here, Oklahoma City and Indiana. Look, I still think that Oklahoma City needs to try and shorten the court. I think they need to turn it into a half-court basketball game. I still don't know that they can keep up. Look, they had a pretty good, I guess you'd call it a comeback the other night against Indiana. But I sincerely think that they still need to full-court press the entire game. I think they need to run a lot of 2-1-2 high traps, some 1-3-1 zones out of defense, some 2-3 zones, get a lot of rotation going on. They need to turn it into a half-court game. Indiana is going to continue with their pace. They're not going to relent. Just because they lost the other night does not mean that they're just going to wake up tomorrow morning and change their game plan. They stick with it. They rely on it 100%. And because the formula has worked for them in the playoffs, I don't think they're going to give it up now. And I think you have to surprise them. And I think you have to beat them up mentally and physically a little bit. And I think you have to start draining them. Similar to the way a boxer starts going to the body on somebody that they know is faster and maybe stronger. And so they just start chopping the tree down. The same way a kickboxer or a Muay Thai fighter would start going to the back of the thighs. An MMA fighter would start going to the back of the thighs where the stamina is. I'm going to wear you down one way or the other. We got 5 rounds. I got all night, Brody. And if I'm Oklahoma City, that's how I'm viewing this. Because I want to minimize my turnovers, first of all. I want to maximize theirs. I want to make it a half-court game. I want to frustrate them. I want 9 seconds to go by before they can even cross half-court. Then I want to force them into a set. But as they're trying to get into a set, they're scrambled and scattered all over the place because my guys have hands up everywhere. They're trapping everywhere. They're all over the court, and you can't get an open look for anything. And eventually, from 45 feet out, you just got to throw it up. I want multiple times in a night to see them with the 10 seconds not be able to make it across half court. That way, I've already got the ball there, and I'm getting in position, and I'm running a set. And I have a lot of inbound plays planned for the night. I mean, at least 15 or 20, maybe more. I'm doing a Bill Walsh and Joe Montana. I'm making stuff up sometimes as it goes along. Hey, guys, schoolyard ball, here we go. Because as long as Indiana's allowed to keep up their pace, it's going to work in their favor. It always works in their favor eventually. We've seen it in the playoffs. You can say what you want to about the regular season. Right now is when it matters the most. And they are pushing everybody to their absolute limit. And if I'm playing this half-court basketball, it minimizes my turnovers. I don't want them to be able to get set defensively against me. Because I'm too busy screening and zoning and everything else on defense. And I'm just putting it, every time I get it down low, turn it over on an inbound play, I'm just chucking it up, man. I'm already 3 feet within the basket. I'm going up for it. You better foul me. I just think that it's a smart way to play basketball. By any means necessary, right? And when you wear them down and you get them tired, eventually, even if it's a close game, they somehow maintain, you're able to pull away late and deliver the knockout blow. That's the way that I would do it. And I'd literally have no shame in it whatsoever. And you're not going to tell me that what I'm doing is wrong. As long as I'm winning, who cares what anybody else thinks? Because game to game right now, you really don't know what you're going to get from the officials. I'm just saying. So you've got to put the game in your hands. All right, everybody, I am Drew Duncan. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is all at Drew Duncan Radio. And wherever you are listening to podcasts, tell your device to play the Drew Duncan Sports Show. And, of course, I am on YouTube, TikTok, the RL Drew Duncan, the real Drew Duncan. Somebody tell the guy who's got the real REAL Drew Duncan to holla at me so we can work something out. In the meantime, everybody stay safe, take care of yourselves, and have a wonderful rest of your night and or day.